I'd like to hear your take on how World War III Part 1 is going.
The tribal nature of our arguing, it's all about whoever's guy is on top.
The fact that 40 bad people are no longer eligible to be the Ayatollah of Iran is a good thing. Do you have a clear sense of what Trump thinks is success in this? Welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent, I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle, I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
Well, I am drinking today. Now, you're getting started earlier, and it sounds like you may not be drinking anything, but I just grabbed a little Weller Green label, a little Special Reserve Weller, which is kind of their basic model, but it is the same juice that ultimately becomes Pappy. So, it's
wow.
little, it's weeded bourbon, pretty smooth. What are you on? You got orange juice, you said?
Yeah, I had a lovely orange juice this morning. We're in Alaska, and so it's 8 o'clock in the morning as we record this. So didn't feel like pounding would be a good idea.
I'm a little disappointed. I would have thought, for the occasion that you would have had a little bit of a cocktail on a 8 a.m., but it makes for a rough day potentially.
Well, we are recording on the 8th of March, and, a couple of news items. I guess I'd like to hear your take on how World War III Part 1 is going.
Yeah, I don't think it's World War III. I mean,
not yet.
I think the U.S. military is doing a phenomenal job. I mean, we took some casualties, but it wasn't people in the act of the war. It was people that were, got some. I think all the casualties occurred of some of the bombings of some of the bases, but I think they're doing a phenomenal job, and it's amazing the accomplishments that they've racked up and the amount of the regime that they've destroyed. It's definitely a different kind of warfare when you go straight for the top in the first 30 seconds. I mean, that is a pretty unprecedented approach, which, I don't know, it's kind of refreshing. I think if you look at this through the eyes of anybody that has spent any time in Iran or left the regime, I think there's a lot of hope and excitement. I think it's probably going to take some time. They're not probably going to capitulate immediately, but so far I think it's positive. I think it's also, it shows an incredible amount of miscalculation, I think, on the part of Iran to start out by lobbing bombs at what presumably could at least have become neutral members of the Arab community. And they took people like Saudi Arabia, who were like, hey, we're going to sit this out, to, no, we're wanting to fight. Now, Saudi, I think, truthfully, was more pushing for this than others. In fact, I saw an article that Saudi was quietly urging this. So I don't think the Gulf states are necessarily aligned with Iran, but certainly lobbing bombs at them has not helped their view of the Iranian regime. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's made significant progress. I think the question is, where do you go from here? What's the exit point? At what point do they, is there a point at which that they capitulate? I don't know that they will. Then it's a matter of, can you take out enough capability and enough of their government to where you've weakened it to a point at which then an overthrow is possible. It's just not really clear at this point who that party is.
What's the history throughout time of effecting regime change by bombing campaigns? I mean, we killed a bunch of people at the top, admittedly, but do you have a clear sense of what Trump thinks is success in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a um, government that's not a threat to anybody is the goal. Um, you know, it was interesting. I was watching some debate about this week, and you know, Iraq was not the war that everybody wanted it to be, and it wasn't. There are a lot of things we probably would have done differently, but it's a little hard to argue that Iraq is not in a better place today than it was in the year 2000. 25 years later, Iraq is a democracy. They're voting leaders. It's relatively stable. They went through a lot of violence, a lot of pain, but it's a hell of a lot better place than it was being led by Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Um,
I mean,
no,
is
I'm not
there a,
arguing with that, but like, was that our job?
yeah, it's a good question.
I'm, I don't want to just reflexively oppose this, and so yeah, I think that the fact that 40 bad people are no longer eligible to be the Ayatollah of Iran is a good thing, right? I don't want to lose that. Maybe it's asking too much, but I don't see super clarity of. I saw yesterday Trump was saying he was preparing to send troops, and then today he's saying he's declared victory already. You know, it's a little bit confusing what our goal is. I doubt, honestly, I doubt that you can get what you want from the air. It didn't do much for our relationship with North Vietnam. Just bombing people to get what you want. Historically, I don't think works that great.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I just think, stepping back a little bit, it is interesting to me the tribal nature of our arguing, um, and it's all about whoever's guy is on top. And I feel like there are so many people now that are like, "This is a horrible idea," that wouldn't think it was a horrible idea if their guy was doing it. So I guess, you know, yeah, there's questions about. I think everything you raised are good points and good questions. But I also think that wrapped into this is this whole baggage that we have as a country have of, well, I can't support taking out a terrible regime if it's the other guy doing it. And I'm not saying you're like that, but I don't know. It's just comical this week, some of the things that I've seen. Like there's a line from Rachel Maddow, and she's screaming, a year ago, well, Trump's not going to do anything about Iran. He's not going to take him out. Well, now it's, well, Trump's a son of a bitch because he's taken out Iran. And it's like, okay. I guess I don't think what he's doing is that outrageous. And I think there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that have pressed for this for a long time. Now you can say, is it working? Is it the best plan and everything else? Yes. But I don't think it's hard to say, well, this is a uniquely Trump idea.
Agree. No, I agree with you there.
My favorite, I'm sorry to interrupt, but my favorite thing was I don't know if you saw, Bill Maher had Adam Schiff on, and he's like, I'm going to play this from the administration. And it was a line about the right of the administration to use force in this emerging situation. And he's like, yeah, that's way too vague. That doesn't make any sense at all. And they said, well, that was Obama's justification of the Libya bombing, and then it was like, it's just like, yeah, I think your points are valid. I think it's shrouded in like, well, this is a bad idea because Trump decided to do it in many cases.
Yeah, I hope I don't slip into that. I have to say, I'm I'm not going to be able to separate myself from why now, and the fact that it coincides with some some I don't even know that it's damaging the accusations against Trump in the Epstein files. To me, what's damaging is that they gave it credence by trying to hide it and then trying to cover it up. And, like, if it really is nonsense, why not treat it as nonsense? But they go to these ridiculous lengths to try to.
Ridiculous lengths, as in releasing a hell of a lot more than anybody has ever released in any other administration.
But the specific ugly and damaging allegations against Trump, they specifically hid and got caught. I mean, if it's nonsense, why treat it like it's real? That's all I'm saying. And so, yeah, I'm suspicious of timing. And because of that, I'm suspicious of the whole thing in Iran. I guess that makes me just tribal, but is it just
50
pure
years.
coincidence?
I think he's solving problems that need to get solved. And a lot of people have been happy to just kick this problem down the road, but this was going to happen eventually.
Yeah. So do we just ignore the cover up?
Well, I disagree that there's a cover up. I mean, they're releasing the information. It's out there. The accusations are out there. Again, it's like, what is being covered up? You don't even think there's anything that they're covering up, but you think they're covering it up.
Well, I don't think it's nothing. I think it hasn't. The story, and I'm willing to accept the story, is that they investigated and didn't find a lead that they could act on. But what, they interviewed the girl 4 times or something. It's not like it's nothing. I don't mean to just. I'm not trying to pivot to this. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm completely skeptical of the timing. And
so nothing can be done in this organization. That's what this comes down to, is anything that's done that's not Epstein related, it's tainted.
Well, kind of. Because they deliberately tried to run a cover up on something that I think is awful. I don't know that changing world circumstances should give you a pass on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think two things can be true at the same time. I think there needs to be more transparency there, but I also think that the world continues to exist, and the rest of the world is not dependent on Epstein, on an Epstein case. I mean, there's other crap that happens in the rest of the world that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know. You don't think it's convenient? It feels really convenient to me.
It's convenient to launch one of the largest military operations in history. I just don't see how that's a convenient situation. I don't know.
Well, again, if they hadn't gone to such lengths to cover it up in the first place, it rings truer. But when you're gonna, we thought it was duplicated. Like, come on. They've had people scouring for his name specifically for months. That's like, nobody knew this was there. That's preposterous.
And again, if there's a smoking gun, so your complaint, because you don't think there's a smoking gun, because obviously if there's a smoking gun, it would have been plastered on every headline in the run-up to the Harris-Trump campaign. So there's some vanity, there's some people trying to make the boss look good, but you don't really believe that there's anything there substantial, or else it would have been used by Biden's administration. I mean, are you thinking there's some level of a Democrat campaign that would not use that information? And yeah, actually, this thing came out during the administration, but this particular accusation was floated during the campaign, but then it lacked available evidence to support it.
Or got covered up. And
by Biden. So why is he covering up for Trump?
That's a great question.
Unless there's nothing there. Unless there's nothing there.
Does it all feel like nothing to you?
Yeah, because if it was something and the Democrats could have gotten a Democrat elected, there is no world, there is zero concept of anything that would keep that hidden. There's no possible way they would keep that hidden. There is zero. I mean, they're going to go to every possible length to get their guy elected. There is no way they're going to hold on to something if it actually had credence.
Unless there's blackmail going that way too. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Donald Trump, and I never will.
Okay.
I never will.
Okay.
There's nothing that he could do that would make me not think that he's a scoundrel. And so, this is all, and so then.
So are we going to
see documents related to the worst sexual abuse scandal in the public history of the world, and his name is all over it, and there are really bullshit explanations for things being factored out. I can't not think that that's something. I can't not think that.
So, I mean, why even have this podcast? We're just going to talk about Epstein every week.
So just move on?
Apparently we can't move on.
I'm willing to set it aside for now, but there is no way I'm ever going to be able to see the current events without that lens involved. There's just no way.
A Democrat gets in office next round, and it's not some old white guy, and they research everything, and nothing comes out again. So are they in on it? Is the next somebody that's younger, that's no way they had anything to do with Epstein, now they're in on it too?
Maybe, if they're covering stuff up, if they're selectively releasing things, if they're hiding things that are obviously bombshells. It's not, I don't think this is purely partisan.
You had Clinton testify. What did that get us? Was there any bombshells there? I mean, his name was all over the files.
Yeah. Well,
sounded like a big sigh.
Well, I don't hold anything out for Clinton. I have no pity for him. If they've got something on him, bring it on.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, he's in the files just as frequently as Trump or anybody else. And they had a hearing, and all these people that have seen all the stuff had the hearing with him, and I don't think we learned anything. Then nothing else really came out that was even remotely meaningful. I mean, you say Trump's name's all over the files. Clinton's name's all over the files. You got a guy who's trying to get to know everybody. Any politician is going to have his name plastered all over the file because he's the guy in charge, and they're trying to butter up the guy in charge. I mean, a lot of I've read his name all over it, but a lot of it is about, well, the president this, the president that.
Sure.
You know,
No, I get that. I just, I'm sorry that I can't turn loose of it, that the timing of this looks like
well, but the
specifically
timing of
timed.
everything is going to look like that if it's always unresolved. So the next 3 years, anything that happens, well, it's being happened because of this.
If it happens in the same week that the Department of Justice is caught red-handed, deliberately obfuscating and hiding a really salacious allegation, I'm willing to give you that. If it happens within a week of a specific
But what are you saying
obvious
is
act of
the
cover-up,
salacious element that was hidden?
the accusation,
Yeah, but that was released 4 years ago. The allegation has been in the public sphere for
then
eight
why did
years.
they take it out? Why did they redact it from what they released?
I think it's incompetence, and I think it's people trying to do what they think it would be appreciated by the boss. That's the way I view it. I mean, there's nothing, the stuff that they've released, the whole thing is not new.
Agreed. So why hide it?
So you don't
I
think there's people in an administration that are sucking up to their boss?
I don't think there's anybody in this administration that's not. I
Well, there you
haven't
go.
seen anybody who. So yeah, maybe just a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. All I'm saying is, yeah, I don't think that's what they should be doing. I think they should release everything. But this specific accusation, again, I just don't think there's a smoking gun, is my point. And this accusation has been in the public sphere before.
Agreed. Just saying that it just seems a pretty big coincidence. It just seems a big coincidence to me. Yeah, it just seems really like a bad coincidence to me.
I'm convinced it's all a nothing burger. No, I mean I'm convinced it's a nothing burger in the sense that no amount of disclosures are going to satisfy anything to anybody about anything, other
Well,
than
that's probably true. Yeah.
there's a lot of sleazy people out there that do sleazy things, but I don't think there's going to be something. I think if there was something that was going to get Trump, it would have gotten him by now.
I agree. I agree. Well, I don't think there's anything positive that's going to come out of beating this horse. I'm probably not going to ever see eye to eye on that.
Well, I'm looking forward to
but
the
there is
time.
more news. Oh,
Well, but I'm looking forward to the point at which you have somebody in there you do trust, and then you still don't hear squat about Epstein. What are you going to do with yourself then?
it's going to be frustrating. I think
Or
this is like the Kennedy assassination. I think this is an evergreen problem uh, because there's already been so much obvious covering up, so much obvious obfuscation. Like in plain sight, people are completely trying to bury these things. So, no, I'm probably not ever going to feel like I think that I know that it's all been disclosed. I don't think I'll
yeah,
ever feel that way.
yeah,
But should that make me not outraged? I guess I am outraged by it. And maybe that'll go away. Maybe I'll just resign myself to it. But yeah, I think it's outrageous. I think it's outrageous. I think it was outrageous that Bill Clinton was so associated with the guy. I think it was outrageous that Larry Summers was. I'm glad to see him gone. I think it's outrageous that Prince Andrew and what's her name, Fergie, it's all outrageous. So, I mean, for
yeah. I
what
mean, I
it's
don't
worth, I'm not
disagree.
just
I think
picking
it's
on
all
Trump.
awful, but I guess I'm like, what do we do with it?
I don't have a solution to that. I don't have something positive to say moving forward. I don't have that. I don't know what it's gonna. I guess I'm just gonna be unhappy forever, and I'm kind of resigned to that. I will quit throwing it up in your face on the
Well,
podcast.
I
I
don't
will agree
care.
to
I
do that.
mean, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating that I just wish they would release it all. And if there's really nothing there, then people could move on, right? If you thought you, but the
Yes.
problem is, even if you released it all, you would say they're holding on to something.
Well, now I would, and I don't think I could be blamed for that. I mean, to your point, yeah, like it's the covering up that looks guilty to me. That's my point. It's the covering up that I'm like, really? You to your point, yeah, this has been in the pub. People have known that this was around there. So you release something, and oh, we forgot to include 4 transcripts of then the 4 that we forgot were this particular 4. Like, wow, bad on us. Sorry. I, yeah, I think that looks suspicious.
Yeah, I think what's crazy to me is how much crap there is. I mean,
Hmm.
millions of documents.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's my outrage. I mean, there's plenty of fuel for my outrage for what it's worth.
Well, I guess my point is like, I mean, if you're not really, if there's a million documents you're not releasing, or somebody said they released 3 million documents and there's another 3 million that aren't being released, like, okay, uh, it's just like an ever ending
Yeah.
problem.
Well, we're certainly not going to fix it. I'm willing to step aside from it. Let's talk about happier news. Let's talk about.
Well, or do we institutionalize the Epstein check-in of the week? I mean, do we make this like a? I mean, I think it's important to address the issue, and because I don't want to be seen as, everything you said is correct. It is horrendous and unacceptable, and I want more visibility. I just the part I'm struggling with, counter to you, is one, I don't feel like we're ever going to feel, no matter what happens, no matter who gets up, unless you and I go up there, unless I get you elected as a Democrat for president, and we get up there and we, have like the two of us go through the entire National Archives and we find every document. I mean, maybe there's a point at which we're satisfied, but even so, we're going to be mistrusting some archivist in some office someplace. Like, I don't know that we're ever going to solve it. And um,
You're right. You're right.
I
No,
don't know
no,
that there
right.
is anything to solve.
No, you're 100% right. I don't disagree at all. Well, let me throw a couple of other names at you. Uh, Tallarico, Paxton, and Cornyn. Let's talk
Yeah,
Texas.
it's interesting. Well, I voted this week. Um, the guy I voted for didn't make it. I voted for Wesley Hunt, representative who was one of the 3 running for senator. Really like him. He's a West Point grad. Um, he's done really well, but out of Houston, but he didn't fare well enough as a 3rd candidate. I'm not crazy about Paxton. I'm not crazy about Cornyn. I'm definitely not crazy about Tallarico either. So, yeah, it's challenging. I think we've got this runoff coming up between Paxton and Cornyn. Yeah, I'm not crazy about either one of those candidates, but like I said, to me, I want to defend against Tallarico, and I think Cornyn probably has the best consensus candidate potential to beat him. I think Paxton's too extreme, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to be Paxton. I'm afraid. But although he was a minority, it's just a question of, it's kind of like the, it's kind of like Bush, Clinton, Perot. How many of those Perot voters are going to go for Clinton? How many of those are going to go for Bush? And so it's a similar situation with the Paxton Cornyn runoff. How many of those Wesley Hunt voters are going to go for Cornyn versus Paxton?
Do you dislike Tallarico because he's a Democrat, or is there something specific about him that you don't?
No, I think some of his statements and some of his core beliefs are out there.
How are you feeling about the fall of Secretary Noem?
Yeah, I think that was a good plan. I think she outlived her usefulness a while ago. I don't know. I mean, I didn't hate everything she was doing, but I feel like, and you pointed it out, but I mean, I think there was a lot of the whole ICE debacle and the Minnesota thing. Honestly, whether you like or hate Tom Homan, they should have listened to him and how they implemented it, because he knows how to implement it without being like center stage in the middle of, you know what I mean? And to your point, like how much of that was a big show up in Minnesota? Part of me is like, and my argument at the time was like, well, the police don't cooperate with ICE in blue states, and in a blue state like that, they haven't enforced immigration law. But reading about Homan, it's like, no, we're still enforcing immigration law in Minnesota, but it can be done in such a way that isn't in the headlines, And I think that's a key element. And I think part of another thing I saw, your thing, you sent me that thing, Tom Tillis had railed on Noam, and I think that was a really good point. Like, this doesn't need to be a number. This needs to be, let's get rid of the people that we need to get rid of, not hit some BS number, and I think that was a really good point as well.
Well, for what it's worth, I maintain I'm not opposed to deporting people that deserve deportation, but this was my criticism of the whole Minnesota thing, is that it was designed as a publicity stunt, or as a high visibility. They were going for splash more than maybe particularly quality.
Well, and I don't know if they were or they weren't, but I feel like they may not have been getting directed by the people that are in the know. Like, I would trust somebody like Homan to lead an operation over some politically appointed yahoo that doesn't know anything about ICE. And are they going to create a dangerous situation?
Yeah.
Versus letting the professionals handle it. So yeah, and the other thing, I hadn't followed it, but that whole reading about it, this whole bit with I don't know if you saw John Kennedy railing on her about these advertisements. I hadn't seen these advertisements, but like she's like Kramer on the Marlboro Man horse, doing all these ads, and she's in the middle of all the ads, and Kennedy's like, yeah, he asked you to do ads. Did he ask you to be the one riding the horse in the middle of the ad?
Well, I'm very glad she's gone, and I'm glad she went down in flames. But it does feel a little like what got her in trouble was not necessarily the shooting of citizens. It was the upstaging the president with TV ads, and I think
I
that
disagree. I mean, I think that was a huge stain.
I
I think
agree. Well, no, I
that
mean
was
that's a
the
cheap shot, but
biggest problem.
but then this like the like this really public affair with Corey Lewandowski, like that is just tacky.
Weird. Yeah.
And like, do you not think that that people are gonna notice that? Like that, I just don't understand that.
Well, and what's odd about it is it's not like she hasn't been a public official before. I mean, granted, it was in the BFE Dakotas. What was it? South Dakota? She's the governor
South
of.
Dakota, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's not exactly Hollywood, but
I
Rapid City
apologize to all of our
politics.
South Dakota-based listeners to the podcast.
No, yeah,
No,
no offense.
no,
Well,
no,
it
you're
is
right. I mean,
more.
you'd think as a governor, she'd have had some sense.
It reminds me of the, because I don't know. I always think of somebody that's like a governor, like, it's like a movie star, somebody important. But honestly, I mean, you could bump into a governor, especially a lieutenant governor. I always laugh because I was at a trade show one time in Oklahoma City. And it was a military aerospace show. I'm at the show, and there's somebody you have like everybody's in this big banquet hall and they're presenting to them and somebody's blathering away, and I'm like, this is a boring waste of time. So I go out in the lobby and I'm grabbing a cup of coffee, and I see this lady and she's headed out the door, and I'm just standing there and I'm like, oh, you're trying to escape this nonsense. And I was like, yeah, you got the right idea. I just made some comment like that. She's like, oh no, I'm sorry. I have to get back to work. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Wow, how you doing? What do you do for a living? She's like, oh, I'm the lieutenant governor of Oklahoma. I was like, oh, okay.
You weren't on my deck of cards
Yeah.
of governors' portraits or whatever.
Don't know who the hell you are, but okay. Interesting. One of the other things I wanted to bring up about the Iran conflict, and I was at a friend of mine has a company, and one of the guys on the board used to run a company, a drone company, and I got to talking to him, and one of the things he was talking about is I brought it up because I said, you see this, it's been reported in several of the outlets, you see these Shahed drones that Iran is using, and they're, probably cost a couple grand to make one of these drones. And they have a small payload, but they launch them at the UAE, or they launch them at Israel, they launch them at someplace. And, we're shooting it down with $1 million. They're launching a $2,000 drone with a warhead, and it's going toward a city, and a Patriot missile is intercepting it. And a Patriot missile is probably $1 million or more. I probably get those numbers wildly off, but it's a huge expense. You're taking down this piddly little drone. And it's like, and I said to this guy, and I said, well, you used to be in the drone business. And I said, man, because we've talked about this before. I was like, man, I don't know why we're going to spend $1 trillion on the B-21. Why don't we spend, a tenth of that and buy 1 billion drones, And the guy's like, absolutely. And he's like, honestly, that business that he had in the drone business, he's like, we've been trying to convince the DOD of that very thing for the last 10 years, and it becomes like the drone warfare situation almost becomes like guerrilla warfare in Vietnam or IEDs in the Iraq war, where somebody makes some makeshift piece of junk and they lob it up there, and it can be as big of a threat as something that costs way more, And so it really is going to be, it's scary to a degree, but it's going to be interesting to see how that threat is combated. And I think it also opens the door of a much different type of warfare in the future when it comes to drones. because that is kind of a huge equalizer.
Well, we've had since 1945 kind of the definition of force projection and power has been access to nuclear weapons, which is, in addition to all the other parts of it, it is like the ultimate capital expenditure. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like you can't just
right.
you don't have improvised nuclear warheads. But yeah, to your point, it's the IED along the side of the road. Like, hey, you've got, a multi-trillion dollar nuclear arsenal to defend yourself and to deter everybody. But, the guy with you know, 2 pounds of plastic explosive doesn't care about your nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
And I think drones, obviously some of them are really sophisticated, but it's sort of the same thing. It's like, no, it's the opposite of high capital warfare, and it's, kind of retail warfare or something.
well, and then it becomes this. There's a terror element of, hey, we launched 100 drones at a populace. They're not. The Iranians aren't sitting there thinking about surgical striking. Hey, we're going to go after military targets. They're going to launch it in the air and scare the crap out of everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
do
that's
have the
part of
feeling.
the challenge of a war like Iran is like the people aren't in charge. I feel like World War II, the doctrine of bombing in World War II was you got to break the will of the people, essentially.
Mhm.
That was the kind of the mindset that, like, hey, you're going to kill all the people. And since World War II, we've never done that. It's always been, well, we're going to take out the military. And I don't know, as you look at Iran, it's like we don't, I say, like, we always would kind of mock this whole thing. Oh, we have no problem with the people of Iraq. Well, we don't have any problem with the people of Iran unless you support the regime,
Right.
and it's kind of like, and we think is that most of them don't want the regime, but at what point are they going to raise up? And if you keep bombing, if you bomb enough of them, is their support gonna sway and be like, no, screw you, you're bombing us, we'll side with the regime? I mean, and that's the tricky balance here. I feel like is the biggest risk.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Yeah, I think that there's a real diminishing returns. I mean, that first bomb that killed the top 40 leaders, that was a good bomb. I mean, that's very
Yeah,
effective. But you move down the food chain a little bit, and you're causing a lot of damage. And at some point, you galvanize the people. Were the British people like, oh man, we ought to just wave that white flag during the Blitz? We should, no, Hitler was right all along. No, in you could argue that the Blitz experience in London, I mean that drove their resolve, and it
right.
inspired us. That's the other part of it too. I mean I guess Iran doesn't really have any allies, but
Well, I mean, and that's again, that's yeah. You bomb all the people, you're going to create that. I worry about. I think if it was just us running this campaign, I think we'd be very sensitive to that. I'm a little worried about Israel. I mean, if you look at Gaza, if they turn Tehran into Gaza, you're not going to have the support of that population.
yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I do worry about that. I think that I think it, like I said before, I think that working with Israel is risky because I don't think that they have the same, maybe the same macro objectives of regime change in Iran, but I think that they're a little less concerned about you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. this can work, and we get something different there. I think a whole lot of Iranians are hopeful of that as well, globally for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's hope something good comes of it, and hope it comes in a way that doesn't require deeper commitment from us. I worry a lot about that. I don't think we need to be in there, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're systematically taking out China and Russia as allies, so that's a plus. Venezuela's out, Iran's out, Cuba's
Cuba's on the
next.
bubble.
Yeah. Just don't screw up the
Yeah.
cigar factories. We're going to bomb Cuba, watch out for the cigars. Cuban rum? Have you had Cuban rum?
Yeah, I've had a couple, but I mean that's where all the big, like Bacardi was a Cuban company,
Oh,
and
okay.
then migrated to Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I would think that there's probably really good rums in.
So regime change in Cuba could really benefit the Bourbon and Rum podcast.
we see, got to look at the sunny side of the equation, I guess.
That's right.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.